Boxing and British sport has lost a true British hero and a British icon, and may he rest in peace.
He was the people's champion for sure.
The public loved Ricky Hatton because he was that guy you could go and have a pint with.
It was so easy to build Ricky Hatton, and he said to me, I never want to change. I never want to be anyone. If I ever get too big for my boots, I'll hand the belts back, I'll hand what I win back. I just want to be one of the people.
Was this a great fight with a great performance by Crawford, or was it a diminished Saul Alvarez that Crawford beat?
I mean, it was a great occasion. Yep. It was a magnificent 12 rounds, but as a great fight, no.
Never
was it
got
a great performance? Yes.
I think it was a masterclass of boxing. Crawford seemed almost deflated after the fight. He seemed almost deflated, but I think that was more to the fact that he knew he was going to win.
I mean, I think we've seen what we need to see.
I'd like to see a rematch.
Would you?
I would as well, yeah.
Is his legacy intact? It's got to be a smack in the face.
He'll be remembered as one of the greats of our generation.
With all due respect to Dana, he's a commercial animal that may well love his sport, but notwithstanding that, he's creating a new opportunity in boxing and wants to monetise it the same way.
That's great, but Eddie's not going to take this. If Dana White's going to do his thing, Eddie and Frank and Oscar De La Hoya...
But if they think they've been piss poor, and I think they've got away with it because they're a legacy sanctioning body, and I think someone coming in and shaking up the orthodoxy and making people look at it differently and professionalising it, as long as the balance is fair.
Will we wrap this up?
I want to ask this question? I was going to, because I'm leading the show. Welcome to episode 138 of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. Joining us today is the voice of DAZN, Adam Smith, and the three-weight world champion, Duke McKenzie. Fellas, thanks for joining us. Last week, we had the sad news that Joe Bugner had passed away, but I think without wanting to be disrespectful to Joe, we had even more distressing news this week, which was the loss of the great Ricky Hatton. Shocking news, Spence.
Yeah, I heard about it when I got home about 12 o'clock yesterday. Breaking news that Ricky Hatton had sadly passed away, and yeah, it was shocking news. Look, we knew that Ricky was suffering from mental health issues. He spoke publicly about that. He was an advocate for it. He was trying to help other people. I had him on my podcast and spoke to him about it. Yeah, he was trying to help other people that were in similar positions, and unfortunately, we lose a great man in Ricky Hatton for sure. What he achieved in the ring, and what a bubbly guy he was outside of the ring as well. It's just such a shame.
When you look back on Ricky's career, which is the sadness of this conversation, because we are now looking back on his career. I mean, how important was he to British boxing, and how important was his achievements, and how, I hate to think of this as potentially being something that younger viewers might need to be educated about, but in terms of Ricky Hatton and the presence that he had and the style and the value that he brought?
Simon, he was iconic, and he wouldn't want to be remembered like that because he was just one of the people, and that's what made Ricky so special. I mean, like Spencer, I'm heartbroken. My whole family are. We spent huge times with the Hattons over the years since he turned professional at 18. It was an incredible ride. We had phenomenal access to their lives, and he was a great, great bloke and a fantastic fighter, a wonderful amateur, technically very astute, courageous, exciting. His body shots were brilliant, but he was vulnerable too, and he got cut and he had to come through scrapes, and he just had the love of the fans with him. That's the thing that we'll remember most, the popularity of Ricky, because he never took himself too seriously. He was serious business inside the ropes, inside training, but outside, he was just one of us, and he was great.
He was so accessible, and that was the thing with Ricky. We covered all of his career, didn't we? And, you used to go up there and he'd let you into the gym, and where a lot of people are very private about that and open sparring sessions, etc. Duke was, he was that guy, Duke, where he would... He was very, very accessible, very likeable. He was the people's champion for sure, and I think, that's why he would come as big as he did.
He was. I mean, I covered one of Ricky's fights in Vegas. Who did he fight? I can't bloody remember now. Castillo. Sorry, Castillo. Jose Luis Castillo. And he was so... I mean, obviously the fight was such an intense fight, but at the one of the press conferences, Ricky Hatton was as calm as can be. I mean, just as calm as cool as can be, and was talking to everybody and was just being Ricky Hatton. And even after the fight, because he ruined that kid, even after the fight, and everybody was going out celebrating as he was. I remember going to bed, I was in my pit by about 11 o'clock, and then I came down the next morning and Ricky Hatton was still at the bar. He'd been drinking all night, do you know what I mean? That was his life. He loved a pint, right? He loved to drink. And that was the story of his life, sadly. And unfortunately, the two don't necessarily go together. You can't be a highly successful athlete and be drinking.
And live life in a certain way. I remember seeing him I'll ask you all a second about your first time you met him. I met him first time I went to the first fight I saw him fight was against Ben Taki. I went to watch him at the Manchester Arena, which is where I think he got the most credible name on his record after that, was the Costa Zoo fight, 2 fights down the road, and I went to that fight too. And obviously the atmosphere was phenomenal. I sat next to the late Dean Powell and was listening to him comment on what Ricky was doing. And then I bumped into Ricky in Spain during the summer, sitting in a pub, drinking and talking about his achievements. I was with Ian Dow at the time. Roll forward the years, I've seen Ricky do many things. I saw him do a stand-up in Marbella, where he was doing. He was very good raconteur. And then I had him on up front, and I always felt, without wanting to be pointed, that there was a sadness about Ricky, that there was something that wasn't making him 100% content. There were various challenges in his life. Relationships with his father deteriorated. Relationships with Billy Graham deteriorated. But he was a character. When I spoke to him up front, we went into great detail about the podcast that I used to do with William Hill, about his life, his career, his achievements, his relationships, all the challenges that he had. And I always felt that there was something that Ricky was holding back, something that was going on beneath the surface that you didn't get. You didn't get into Ricky Hatton, you didn't get to know him. And I think you did probably more, didn't you, Adam?
I did. I was very, very close to him. The first time I met him was when Billy Graham, the old champs camp, said, I've got this kid I want you to have a look at, and this spiky blonde-haired, quite chunky lad. He was about 16, 17 maybe, and he was hammering away on a punch bag, and Billy said, this is the future. This is the guy who's going to become a world champion, and he was Richard Hatton at the time, and we just had a connection right from the beginning. And in those early days of Sky Sports and the boxing, it was a chance to really build somebody, but it was so easy to build Ricky Hatton. And I spent a lot of time with him. I remember a car journey after maybe 3 or 4 fights in, where he said to me, I never want to change. I never want to be anyone. If I ever get too big for my boots, I'll hand the belts back, I'll hand what I win back. I just want to be one of the people. He had mates on the Hattersley estate that he had all the way through. And of course the celebrities came in later, the Gallaghers, the Rooneys, the footballers. But he was always one of us, one of the people, and a working class hero. But I think, he did struggle, and he struggled particularly post-career. I thought he took the Pacquiao defeat very, very badly. And, and that was hard to watch, but he was very open about it. And I spoke to him just a few weeks ago, and he seemed in a much better place. And that's the tragedy. It's really come left field. And,
I think that's the problem, Adam, that is when you are a kid like where Ricky come from, and the kid that he was, personality was very charismatic, and you become a public figure. There's a lot of pressure that comes with that.
Sure.
And he wasn't just a guy that become, a boxing world champion. He become one of the biggest public figures that we've had.
How did he create this remarkable support base? I mean, obviously, you come from a local area, you relate to it, you're a man of the people, you still associate with the people that you grew up with. But what triggered? I mean, I remember watching the Floyd Mayweather press conferences, and of course Floyd winding everybody up by wearing Man United shirts and whatever else he thought he could do to get at people. But the scale, I went to America, watch Lennox Lewis and see the fans following him, and then you see Ricky's following, and the scale of that presser or that weigh-in in terms of the fight against Floyd Mayweather was like, I don't think the Americans knew what they were having haircut in terms of the scale of...
Because he was the boy next door, he was the guy that used to, we would see him boxing at the MEN Arena against Costa Zoo in that 2005 when he, that memorable fight, probably one of the best atmospheres I've ever been at. Ever. And you go, the Sunday after, he's down his local working man's club, drinking with the boys and doing that. And people related to that. They loved that because, that was the guy that he was. And that's how he got the fan base that he got.
Most of the people in the MEN had a pint with Ricky, or certainly felt that they had, and that you were in Vegas with him, and they just travelled. They wanted to be part of it.
The public loved Ricky Hatton for whatever the reason. I'd like to say more so than probably most of our other world champions, because he was that guy you could go and have a pint with. It was ridiculous that when he boxed Mayweather at the weigh-in, and the crowd absolutely drowned out Mayweather. You couldn't even hear himself talk at the time. But even Mayweather joined in singing, there's only one Ricky Hatton, and it was all just going crazy. It's ridiculous. And it
lifted him as well, didn't it?
At the MEN when he boxed Costa Zoo. You couldn't even hear yourself speak. I was there. It was ridiculous.
It was an incredible occasion and one of the greatest nights and wins ever by a British fighter.
In a British ring, What was, this Mayweather tour that you would have been on and observing, what was that experience like? Duke talks about the the culmination of it in terms of the noise and the experience of Mayweather. And of course, I mentioned Mayweather wearing a Man United shirt, trying to get underneath the skin. But you were on that journey with him. What was that experience?
It was the contradiction, I think, between the two, the one you loved and the one you loved to hate.
Yeah.
And you know, Floyd was all flash, and he was so skillful and brilliant.
Mayweather.
And we'd followed him as well, of course, at the same time. And he was favourite to win the fight, and he had the skills that paid the bills. But there was Ricky, who just wanted to take away the nonsense that he felt Mayweather, that sort of showmanship, the brash, arrogant side. And Ricky was totally the opposite. He was humble. He didn't like it. And the 24/7 HBO showing everything we did on Sky, it was an enormous build-up to that. Ricky was unbeaten in 43. Mayweather was undefeated. He'd won world titles at different weights, and it was the culmination. And I think in my heart of hearts, I always thought Mayweather would find a way to win the fight. Yep. But your heart was with Ricky, and it shouldn't have been as a broadcaster, but Ricky was the sort of person that was infectious to be around, and you were gutted when he lost. Gutted.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier on, I talked to Ricky about the difference between him and Mayweather, and here's him talking just over a year ago on my Upfront podcast.
I'm from the council estate, and he's from the same equivalent in the States,
the
which projects.
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel bad sometimes when I go to Hattersley, which was where I was the council estate where I was, but I feel bad driving my car around there. But I can't see anybody sat in any of the bars in the projects, you know, when Floyd's going, look at me 250 on my pinky and look at the 300 on my wrist. I can't see anyone.
Love him.
I can't see anyone in the project sat there. You can't put the electric on, can't put the heater on. No, pot to and say, tell you what, and he done us proud him.
Yeah.
No, what they're going to think? Come down
pull out
here.
an Uzi and take it off him.
Yeah, if he comes down here, I'm going to stick a knife in that.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to do, aren't they? You know what I mean?
He was a saucy
I like to go down my Hattersley, and every kid or every parent or everyone say to me, "Oh, Ricky, hey, brilliant, how you doing? Can you have a picture like that?" What's he going to do if he goes down to his...
he runs with a different crowd now, doesn't he?
And that's the different, you know. You want people, I say, listen, work hard. I come from where you come. If you try and we work hard and you dedicate yourself and say, what, if I can do it, you can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
what does he do? What does he do? Hey, kid, you want a picture? Come and have a picture. Look at me watch. You know, off.
That probably sums him up better than anything else, doesn't it, in his own words?
Like what I was saying, you know, just a minute ago, that he was the guy that liked to have a drink with the guys down the working man's club. Like you say, like he would like to go back to the estate where he was brought up from, and he could relate to them, and they could relate to him, because there was nothing flash, nothing brash about Ricky Hatton, and he remembered where he come from. And I think that's important for boxers. You know, when they keep their feet on the ground and remember their roots, you know, that's why they become so infectious.
That's what he did, remembered his roots. That
Absolutely.
conversation I had at the beginning of his career, he was the same at the end and beyond. He had a wonderful relationship with a young boy called James Bowers, who had brain damage, and he was like almost like a mascot for Ricky, and Ricky gave him so much time. And it wasn't just that, it was anyone, the guys on the estate, or it was the celebrities that would come in. He was obviously a huge Manchester City fan. And
James used to carry the belts in, and he was at every fight.
And he was, it was that ability to make
relate.
everybody feel great around him, whatever they were, whoever they came from.
Well, Paul Smith said that. Paul Smith said that this morning on the show. He talked about the fact he was a young boxer, that Ricky walked into the gym, and he was the most highly rated fighter probably in the country at the time, on the cusp of winning a world title. Paul Smith was starting out, and the way that he spoke to Paul and brought him into his confidence and asked him if he could do anything for him, if there's any help you ever need, and that illustrates the point. I just want to finish on probably what most people will think is the highlight of his boxing career, which was the win against Costa Zoo. I mean, it opened up mega fights against Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, which probably economically were more financially rewarding, but in terms of achievements, the scale, the performance, you commented on that fight, or commentated on that fight. Can you just run us through your recollection of it?
It was huge, Simon, because Hatton didn't start that fight as favourite. And Costa Zoo had this formidable reputation, you know, and he was a big puncher, knocked out really classy fighters like Zab Judah, who was another amazing champion. And like I say, Hatton wasn't supposed to win that fight, but, you know, Ricky Hatton did what Ricky Hatton does. And, he, you know, once he gets in and he sits in your chest and starts punching away, you can't stop him. He was like a man possessed. And in the end, he broke Costa Zoo's heart with his relentless attitude and his work ethic. He's never stopped throwing shots. But like I say, there were times in that fight I couldn't even hear myself speak. The noise, the raucous noise of that crowd was phenomenal. And it'll be something I'll never, ever forget.
I don't think anyone will forget it, Simon. And I think it was a perfect matchmaking by Frank Warren. He fought Ray Oliveira before down in London, which was a teak-tough test. You mentioned Ben Taki. But he fought Sue at exactly the right time, a pound-for-pound star, just slightly on the wane. But Ricky's performance, I think he would have beaten anyone that night. That night was his one. That was the one that we'll always remember. We'll all remember being there where we were, but that moment when Billy and Ricky rolled around on the canvas and it all came out, the emotion, when the great Kostya had been pulled out on his stool after 11 rounds.
Vanquished.
I think that just lives on forever.
It was a calculated gamble by Frank, who's brilliant at doing that, but none of us, we were all working that night, none of us thought that Ricky could do it. I picked Frank Bruno up on the way up there, actually, and we're talking about it, saying, listen, great young prospect, this Ricky Hatton. Frank's done a brilliant job of him, but this is a pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world. In Kostya's you go, too much too soon. But he showed a little bit of everything in their character. He was hurt badly at the beginning of that fight as well. And he went through it. He was never going to be denied that night. And I'll tell you what, guys, I think the fight, that was really the moulding of him. But a fight that really made him as well and developed him massively, and it never gets talked about, was the John Thaxton fight.
Just about to say that.
John Thaxton fight when he got cut from
very early.
Only that referee would have allowed that to go on. And had he lost that fight, Ricky Hatton, he would never have gone on to achieve what he would have achieved. You know, I think that one there, that developed him and made him into
a Wembley Conference Centre, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a horrendous cut.
Lonsdale belt and Mick Williamson, he used to call him God in the corner because he used to stitch Ricky up. And I think that the frailties and the fragility, occasionally Eamon McGee had him down early. They were the things that really added to the appeal of Ricky Hatton.
45 stitches, I think, yeah.
45 stitches and 45 wins in his career out of 48. What a legend.
Well, I think it's fair to say, and I can say it on behalf of all of us, that boxing and British sport has lost a true British hero and a British icon, and may he rest in peace. We got it, Spence. We got it. We got one prediction right. Terence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez. We picked Crawford. Give us your top line feelings on what you think of that fight.
Do you know what, Simon? It was like we had watched the fight before it had happened.
Absolutely.
Because that's the way it went.
In the presence of genius, and you don't even know it.
Absolutely. We actually called it. We said, look, listen, that Terence Crawford would build up an early lead, and when he had to bite down, when he had to do it, that 9th round especially, he stood there and showed that he could trade with him and he could take the shots and he could mix it. And the difference between the two was, like we said, Duke, was the combination punching, the ring control from Terence Crawford. They were all the question marks. Could he do that? Could he cope with the power of Canelo Alvarez, who's adapted now and had to adjust in his career? He now throws single shots. And that's why it was the calculated gamble. Well, it wasn't really a gamble because me and Simon called it from the beginning. That we go, Mayweather ticks every department. You go, the only thing that people are hedging their bets on is that Canelo's the bigger guy, but he wasn't really anyway.
No.
You can see, because Crawford come down from 185 anyway, you can see the physicality's in there. He was all the size of Canelo.
As Edward said long before this fight, I just think styles make fights. And Canelo's style, this style of Canelo, was suited for Crawford.
Indeed.
He can't throw combinations anymore. There's no more head movement from Canelo.
Yep.
He tries to walk people down and hit you all over the body and all over the head if he can, but he can't put his combination. He can't sustain the combinations. And what really impressed me about Crawford was the fact that it was a question of, like, he didn't want to trade off early with Canelo. He traded late with Canelo because he couldn't take his power early. So in the early rounds, he was just pity-patting and just tapping him, kept spinning him, kept turning him and driving him mad. And then in the later rounds, as Canelo started to fade, from round 7, round 8, as the pace got a little bit slower, then Crawford's confidence, he was confident enough within himself to stand and trade with him. Yep. And even when he got on inside, he was hitting him with like 3s and 4s, hard shots, constant shots, and just kept spinning him, kept turning him. And Canelo didn't really know where he was. And another great thing about Crawford, he stayed southpaw throughout the whole fight. Yep. And Canelo admitted after that he couldn't handle a southpaw.
Couldn't work it out.
Couldn't work it out whatsoever.
Adam, we had Paulie Malignaggi on the show the other day with myself and Jim, and I want you to have a listen to what he had to say and see what you think of it.
I think Canelo has been, for a while, a diminishing fighter. Call it age, call it whatever other things you want to call it. But I just think that, the only reason he's even still around at this level is because he's avoided his top contenders in his weight class, so he's been able to still remain champion at that weight class. He'll actually do what he blames Benavidez doing, which is, quote unquote, being a weight bully. He'll do that to other guys and actually bring them up in weight. I think when you have that kind of name, you have a responsibility to make things, the best for boxing. And I think he just looks out for Team Canelo instead of Team Boxing. And at a certain point, it is about money, but he's made so much money already. He really has a responsibility to help the sport, and he's doing anything but that. People like him are the reason people complain about boxing and say, "Oh, this is why MMA became more popular." Not to say that I have a competition with boxing and MMA, but those people have a point. In boxing, the best fights a lot of times don't get made, and people think of the biggest names possible when they think about that. And a guy like Canelo Alvarez has behaved exactly that way.
I mean, Paulie has an axe to grind there to some extent, you'd think. But is this fight? When I looked at Saul Alvarez and I looked at the opposition he's been fighting recently, and I felt to myself, fighting William Skell and Berlenga before that, and going in against Crawford, has undone him a little bit, because Malignaggi's attitude is he picks and chooses, and we all think he ducked Benavidez. So by fighting an opposition that's not as good as it needs to be to go in against Crawford, will have hurt him. At the same time as people were suggesting that Saul Alvarez picked Crawford at the perfect time when he'd been inactive and come off the back of an operation. What the operation was, we don't know. And so they thought they got Crawford at the right time. Was this a great fight with a great performance by Crawford, or was it a diminished Saul Alvarez that Crawford beat?
Well, a couple of things. Firstly, I do miss commentating with Paulie Malignaggi.
He's great,
I absolutely adore
he's
him.
fabulous,
and I see exactly what he's saying. However, Canelo is a legend. I, like you two, thought Crawford would win the fight, and I thought it would be as comfortable as that. I just worried about the Vegas judges, and they were a little bit tight. I thought it was a dominant performance.
Did you see
Crawford.
the AI scoring, by the way?
They
scored it a draw.
Unbelievable.
Ridiculous.
I mean, that is just
preposterous.
Yeah, ridiculous. So, was it a great fight? I mean, it was a great occasion.
Yeah.
It was a magnificent 12 rounds, but as a great fight, no.
Never
Was it
caught a
a
light,
great performance? Yes. Terence Crawford did exactly what he needed to do. I knew within 30 seconds of the fight that he felt comfortable. It was all about whether he'd get into that rhythm, utilise that southpaw advantage. He has the IQ, the ring generalship, and Canelo is slightly on the slide, the William Skull performance, etc. See what Paulie's saying. But yeah, don't take anything away from Terence Crawford. This was his coming out party on Netflix, and people don't know Terence Crawford if you walk down the streets. They know a bit about Canelo, and they know obviously the Furies, the Joshuas, but this was his moment, and I always felt.
Were you surprised about his outburst in the press conference afterwards? Because I didn't think that he would say those sort of things, because ultimately he was talking about the opportunities that had been denied him. And it might be because the balance of the purse was going 100 million to Canelo and 50 million to him, which is, not bad quid if you can get it, is it? And he was talking about the opportunities that have been denied him and that he'd not been given. Well, if you're a three-weight undisputed champion, you've had opportunities, haven't you? Were you surprised with his sort of vitriolic, disdainful attitude towards the system that hadn't allowed him?
Simon, Crawford seemed almost deflated after the fight. He seemed almost deflated, but I think that was more to the fact that he knew he was going to win. He knew that. I don't think he's had an easier fight than that against Canelo.
But Duke, when you box and you're boxing a fight of that sort of magnitude, but when you box and you was defending your world title, or myself when you're boxing for the European title, when you get that victory afterwards. Why is it that you hit that depression? Because everybody does it. You
put so much into it.
I used to sit there.
It's great heights, isn't it?
I'd wake up the next morning and go like, "Why?"
But did you see
so low?
Did you see the way the American media seemed to be characterising this for Crawford, which would have irritated me, which was this is a legacy fight that he can go out of this fight and ultimately be judged in a completely different way. This is a two-weight undisputed world champion whose apparently career was going to be defined by if he won or lost this particular fight. So if he goes up 3 weight classes, OK, one of them, he's fought at an interim weight class, but really he's a 147 fighter. And the American media, which really annoyed me, because Max Kellerman going in the ring, and I'm not asking you to comment on fellow commentators because you'll probably sit on the fence on this one, why does the question have to be, is this your last fight?
Yeah,
why can't it be, look at what you've achieved, look at this moment in time?
Yeah.
It should have been that achievement. It was a phenomenal thing that Terence Crawford has done. We all picked him, and that's fine. But Canelo is Canelo. 67-old, 68 fights in, a multi-weight champion himself. It was an incredible performance.
Guys, can I add something? Can I add something here as well? And trainers take note of this as well. The corner, Bomac and his second in the corner, he was giving the instructions,
he was great, wasn't he?
silence, and then he says to his second, "You got anything to say?" calm, perfect when you've got a fight like that, and that is for any trainer to take note, because we're talking all the time about the chaos that's in the corners, and that affects the fighter, and the fighter needs that calm around him. That was the way to do it.
Beautiful, wasn't it, between the two of them?
Honestly, it was amazing.
Personally, I think it was a masterclass of boxing because the way that he handled Canelo and made it look so effortlessly, made it look so easy. You know, he knew he couldn't trade off with him in the early rounds, so he boxed him. And when Canelo, when Canelo wanted to try and fight him, he just kept him at the end of the jab, and he couldn't get past that jab. It was an absolute masterclass because you look at the little feints and the little twitches, the little stepping off, the little head roll, and even in the last 2 or 3 rounds, and from the 9th round onwards, when Crawford held his feet and traded off with Canelo, it was always one punch ahead. It was always one step ahead.
That ninth round when he decided to hold his feet and sit in the pocket and trade with him.
Wasn't that great?
That was unbelievable because he beat him his own. And then in the 12th round as well, he stood there, he put it on him, you go, right, you've got this in the bag now, but he wanted to go out on a high.
But that was great observations from Andre Ward, wasn't it? They were talking about, you know, is he getting too greedy? He said, well, he set his table, let him eat what he wants off it now.
And he did eat what he wanted. And it was fantastic. It didn't seem a long time since he beat Ricky Burns all those years ago. And I remember watching that thinking, this guy's good. I mean, I'd never thought he'd
go to this level.
Do this.
Is there any appetite? Do we have any appetite for a rematch? I mean, I think we've seen what we need to see.
I'd like to see a rematch.
Would you?
I would like to see a rematch.
Well, yeah.
Why? Because Canelo's going to have the bit between his teeth, right? And he's going to be saying to himself, you know, as he did for his first fight, you know, I've got all my Mexican fans, I've got fans worldwide, and I'm going to turn this one around. But he won't be able to.
He can't, can he?
No, he absolutely cannot.
I think he admitted, Duke, in the press conference after, didn't he? He said, I just couldn't figure it out. You know, you're talking about the brilliance, and we've talked about the brilliance, myself and Simon, on numerous shows, saying, where does he fit in as an all-time great? You go, well, he's just answered that now. And you go, when we were talking about, let's say, welterweight is his prime weight, you go, he goes with any of them.
Yeah.
And now that sort of backs it up. You go, to jump up the way that he's jumped up, and whether Crawford is on the slide, Canelo is on the slide or he's not on the side or he's had to adapt, he still beat a great champion.
Canelo's legacy is intact and he's a brand and he's been unbelievable for the sport of boxing. But Terence Crawford beat him easily.
Is it?
Do we want to see a rematch? I don't think it'll be any different.
Is his legacy intact? It's got to be a smack in the face for a guy that's come up 3 weight classes, albeit he's fought one at 154.
He'll always go up to
168 and beat him, and
he'll be remembered as one of the greats of our generation. Crawford could be remembered as the greatest of our generation, and now the debate will be, was Mayweather
Here it is. Where does the Canelo go off the back of that? He has to go back into the rematch. He signed this deal with Riyadh season. You know, he's got this free fight deal with Riyadh season. They will want to see that again because you go, where do you put Canelo otherwise? He didn't want to go in with Benavidez. No. Benavidez now moved up. You go, he has to go into the rematch. And for Terence Crawford, that's time to cash in because he wins the fight again.
And he'll always struggle, won't he, Canelo, with those type of opponents.
Absolutely.
That performance from Canelo on Saturday night would have beaten just about anybody else in the super middleweight division. But that tells you just how special that Crawford is.
I agree.
Because Crawford handled him with relative ease.
The only other aspect is the constant conundrum around Undisputed is being able to retain all the belts, and one of the belts dropping off, and Canelo being able to fight for it without having to fight Crawford for it. And up steps our kid.
Yeah.
Hamza Sheeraz.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think going back to the performance as well, when you're talking about Terence Crawford there, because I want to talk about what great performance this was, when a fighter can get in there and do this tit-for-tat stuff and then switch it up and throw the shot, he is in his comfort zone, man. Like you're actually playing with someone. You know, like when you've got a fight,
the confidence, the swagger, the rhythm.
No, to be able to sit there and just pour away and whip in a shot and pour away, you go, he's in control here. Like he's having this.
Do you boys think he's currently the pound for pound best fighter on the planet?
You see, this is an interesting one because
for itself.
See, I think how can it? Because I think you've got to bring Usyk into this conversation. Because Usyk can't go up another weight class.
No, he can't. But he could go down to bridgerweight.
No.
If he was if he was that good,
if
he was that, no, I'm just saying, if he wanted to become an undisputed three-time,
he doesn't need to go down to bridgerweight. No, but Alexander Usyk is the greatest fighter of our era, cruiserweight king, undisputed again at heavyweight twice. He's got to sort of sit almost in a world of his own.
Well,
but pound for pound through the weight, you've got to say Terence Crawford is there.
Yeah, but Terence has put himself in that argument for sure because what he achieved there with Canelo Alvarez he's in the argument as pound for pound as well. Simon, you go, with Terence moving up the way he done, we thought he was going to win,
it's got to be a great
90% of the people thought he was going to lose. That is an achievement.
The reason why I have to bring Usyk into the fore, because if there was a super heavyweight, I think he'd go up to that and win that division as well. But the fact is, he can't go up another division. He's gone into the heavyweights and bashed a lot of them up.
He could drop down to... Let's just say...
To Bridgerweight.
Let's just say drop down to Bridgerweight.
Yeah, but there's no competition in that division.
Yeah, but then it'd be a 3-time undisputed, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but
you can't
let's mix it up. Let's mix it up here. Let's mix it up and have something that I'm going to say now is going to be completely wacky. Can Crawford move up to light heavyweight?
He's not big enough.
Nah. Can he do it though?
No, he can't.
We said that about Superman.
It's a big gap, Superman to light heavyweight.
It is, but I'm asking the question. You're talking about brilliance.
No, he can't. And Brian Mack has already said that.
Well, look who's in there.
Bivol.
Yeah.
Do you think?
I don't
we saw Bivol do to Alvarez what Crawford did to Alvarez in his own weight class.
Benavidez.
I didn't say he can move, but I said I was asking the question.
No,
that's a stupid question.
I was asking the question.
But we see Mayweather, De La Hoya, Crawford, all those Tommy Hearns, all the years move up through the weights. Usyk can't go any higher. He's the heavyweight champion of the world.
Not a light heavyweight.
Okay,
he can't move. He's not physically big enough.
Just before we wrap this
Do you want to
up.
ask this question? I was going to because I'm leading the show.
Go on then.
Does a prime Crawford, which we think he's probably just at that point now, maybe just coming to the end of it, does he beat a prime Floyd Mayweather?
Sneak my question.
I know, that's why I wanted to get him because I read the schedule and I thought I'd like to ask that question.
No, not for me.
Mayweather's the greatest I've seen and commentated on.
I think he does.
Right, so the boxing riddle wrapped up in a rhyme. Dana White's participation in it. First proper boxing event, not that freak show that we had to watch with McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. What's your takeaway from some of the things that Dana was saying, his lovely little interaction in the press conference?
Yeah, so one of the reporters put it on Dana a little bit, didn't he, about using the UFC model in boxing, and that's what it's about.
In conjunction with the Muhammad Ali Act,
in conjunction with the Muhammad Ali Act. So basically what they're talking about is, doing their own organisation, having their own belt, but that...
Do you like the way he handled himself? Because he doesn't muck about, does he?
Say again?
Do you like the way he handled himself? Because he doesn't muck about, Dana, does he?
Oh, no, I love the way he handled himself.
He is a president, isn't he?
Let's have it right. He was backed into a corner. He was under a lot of pressure. Yeah, he handled it all right, but he didn't give us the answers. He said, let's do the interview in private.
He bullied the
He absolutely did.
Good job, bully journalists. I'd like to see it.
What he's trying to achieve, that is a huge, huge, huge job. And can it be done? Will it be done? I'm not sure that it can, Simon.
Let's have a listen to Dana himself.
There's no doubt. I've accomplished a lot and I've done big things, done big fights, but now I have to go prove myself. Mm-hmm. When you think about the top 3 biggest fights of all time, which is Mayweather, Pacquiao, Mayweather, McGregor, and now this fight. I've been a part of 2 of them, whether it's the Eddie Hearns or the, Shake Turkey or any of them. America's a different market. It's a tough market to figure out. You know what I mean? It is definitely fizzled out over here over the last several years. So, listen, right now, again, nobody has a television deal, right? DAZN's doing some fights, but I will have a television deal. I'll figure it out, and I will announce it ASAP, and I will start my thing in 2026, and boxing will be on television regularly now in the United States. I'm going to do 12 to 16 boxing events. Am I missing anything?
Little broadside at the streamers, DAZN there. What do you think of what he's saying there, Adam?
Look, Dana's a very smart guy, and
no doubt.
What he's done with the UFC has been extraordinary to sort of package it up, have the stories flowing, the best fighting the best. It's been fantastic. Boxing's a very different sport. But
the commercial relationships in the UFC and what fighters get paid and what the promoters and managers get paid is a whole different ballgame to what you get in boxing, isn't it?
Yeah, a whole different ballgame. And boxing is the Wild West and always has been. And look, I think we all want it sort of in a way sort of done in a nice circle and everybody sort of understands it. But I think there's a bit of magic as well to the world titles, the WBC, the IBF, the WBA, the WBO, the history. And I think also it gives opportunities for fighters to go and win different things. And don't forget the British level and everything that we have here. So, of course, there's a place, and Dana's a fantastic guy to go and do that in America. And I think America does need reigniting, very much so. But I think boxing here is brilliant. And I would say that because I work with Frank and Eddie every week on DAZN, but every time, we've just been in Belfast, we've got a phenomenal October, November, December.
Yeah.
Fight after fight. If they could do that in America, great.
Why is he trying to not so much repudiate, but to sophisticate in his mind the Muhammad Ali Act, which is predominantly to preserve the well-being of fighters, to increase the opportunity, to distinguish between promoters and managers? Why is he fiddling about with this? You got any view on that? Because I can't see what he's trying to do. I looked at it and thought, well, what is it you're trying to achieve? But you know, ultimately, you're not trying to achieve something for the betterment of the fighters, I suspect.
So TKO is trying to invent their own world title, effectively.
So they want to be judge, jury, and executioner.
There's
they want to
a
adjudicate.
federal law with the Muhammad Ali Act. It is without governing bodies, etc., etc. And he's trying to create his own
under
thing.
one roof.
All under one roof.
Yeah.
But
so he wants to mark his own homework.
Mauricio Suleiman is saying then the argument is that gives them the advantage because they've got their own thing, and then we got this, so it gives them an advantage over the other promoters. And to do it, Simon, that is a huge operation. Boxing has always been the Wild West.
It's not
the WBC and all the other governing
homework.
bodies have been a big part of that. And I think to try and change that, strip it away, that's
But what he's doing
difficult.
is challenging the orthodoxy of who was the arbiter to say that the sanctioning bodies should be the adjudicators of how this act works. Let's listen to Mauricio Suleiman himself talking about this issue with Eddie Hearn, I think.
I like to confirm that there's a lot of confusion on the intentions of the bill that wants to be changed, because that's a federal law.
Yes.
So it's a major change. And the way it is being portrayed is that they want to be able to do the UFC structure in boxing, which means the common promoters that are currently promoting will have disadvantages in the way that they have to comply with the law, and these UBOs will not have to comply with that law.
The one thing that I would really like at this point in my career is to go head-to-head with him and to take him on. I want to compete against Dana White. I want to prove that I'm much better than him as a boxing promoter. So I'm excited for him to come into the space. That doesn't mean we're going to fall out, by the way. Competition's fantastic. But you're not going to come into boxing and steamroll the game. It's not going to happen.
Right, that wasn't Eddie Hearn talking to Mauricio Suleiman, it was addressing the same subject. I don't know if I understand. I mean, if ever there was an organisation that needed to have its mind concentrated and some transparency, it was the WBC in my view. But I don't understand the point he's making. If he's suggesting that the new set of promoters that work with Dana White's TKO, if you change the law, then it must benefit everybody. The law has been changed. Do you have a view, Duke, about the changing of the Muhammad Ali Act? Because its primary focus in life was in '96 to bring in a set of guidance, a set of guidelines around how fighters can be looked after, how they can't be utilised in a way that's disadvantageous to them. Well, obviously, we saw back in the day, we saw Tim Witherspoon and fighters like that going to the wall because they weren't looked after by certain promoters. And it was a delineation about who, what, when and how. So do you think it needs improving, or do you just think this is a land grab, an opportunity for TKO to create its own space and turn itself into a head cook and bottle washer?
Probably all organisations and all rules and regulations need to be tweaked at some point.
Sophisticated with new knowledge,
because you've got to move with the times, right? But I don't know why he would want to just take control of the whole thing, because if he's suggesting for 1 minute that he's going to do away with the organisation.
He wants to be arbiter.
Yeah,
he wants to be the... Because what the sanctioning bodies do is they make sure that people are adhering to the Muhammad Ali Act.
Yeah.
If he's the arbiter of that now, he's marking his own homework.
Of course he is, yeah. Well, that's not going to work, is it? Because as Eddie Hearn's just said, he'll go head-to-head with him. So that won't work. And then, obviously, everyone else is going to get on board. All the other promoters will also have a point to say. And then it'll be Dana White against the rest.
I mean, Turki Al-Sheikh's come in and he's done wonders for the sport. He's changed the landscape, and the Ring magazine is fantastic, the way it's come back out, and everybody loves the belt and the ratings and all that. That's great. But Eddie's not going to take this. If Dana White's going to do his thing, Eddie and Frank and Oscar De La Hoya and all the other promoters...
With respect, if they change the Act, then everybody will change their parameters full stop. So the governance for everybody will be
changed for the good?
Well, that's my question. Do we think changing this to ultimately suit the ends of the commercial operation? And we already know that there's a challenge with TKO. We know because they're getting sued, class action sued for hundreds of millions of compensation on UFC fighters because of the split between the promoters, the structure, and the fighters themselves. Do you think this is a good look for boxing, where it looks like a new entity that wants to run its own game, that wants to play it by its own rules, is going to change it? And I don't suppose it's for the benefit of the fighters.
It's never a good thing if just one person controls the whole thing.
No, but
that's never a good thing.
But he's changing the law, Duke. He's not changing it for the benefit of themselves. They're changing the act.
Simon, that's a huge operation, and that word you used there, if, that is a big if, because to do that, it's going to take some time and take some doing. I mean, what do you think? What do you think, though? Do you think it's good for boxing if they've done that?
Well, look, I mean, I don't like the sanctioning bodies in the way that they operate, and I think the WBC are shambles at times. And I think they've gotten away with murder for years, whether it's mandatory fighters, whether it's giving fighters excuses, whether it's condoning fighters' behaviour, whether it's allowing champions to be in recess for periods of time. I think they've been piss poor. And I think they've got away with it because they're a legacy sanctioning body. And I think someone coming in and shaking up the orthodoxy and making people look at it differently and professionalising it, as long as the balance is fair.
Right.
As long as the fighters are getting...
fair. That's key, Simon. What you're saying is absolutely right. Change is great, providing...
As long as everyone benefits.
Providing our beautiful
fighters,
sport, the fighters are looked after, right? The fighters, these two have done it, right? And we look into the fighters,
correct,
and it is the respect for them when I pick up a mic that I never forget, because we wouldn't be doing any of this without them.
Correct. And that's the space in this conversation that needs to be looked at carefully, because if it is of benefit to the fighters and everyone's carrying an equal benefit, then the Hearns and the Warrens and the Calasaulans and the top ranks have to adjust their pitch to make sure that they can fall into the benefits of a new law that benefits not just them but the fighters as well.
Would you be up for the change?
Goes to the point I just made.
Yeah.
If it's equitable. But I mean, I would imagine. Ask yourself a question, honestly. When you look at situations and rules change, whether it's football or boxing or any kind of sport, look at who wanted the rules changed for that, and look at who wanted the rules changed, and then work out what the reasons are. Right. So look at the model that's been in place for UFC. Look who's behind it. Look who's got really rich out of it, and wonder why this might be changing now. With all due respect to Dana, he's a commercial animal that may well love his sport. But notwithstanding that, he's creating a new opportunity in boxing and wants to monetise it the same way.
Sure.
Of course he is.
We'll see. We'll see. OK, let's have a look at the heavyweights. I mean, obviously, it's the marquee division that everyone always focuses on. There's lots of other good fights going on and potential ones coming up. And obviously, we've got Anthony Yard fighting soon. But we've got an update in the heavyweight division, which is Parker versus Wardley. This is a good fight. This is a fight I really like. Really? I don't think it's just a case of Fabio goes into a fight where he's got, a shot to nothing, because if he loses, people expect him to. He's still got a WBA interim opportunity to lose. You like this fight?
Love it. WBA interim, WBO interim. Joe Parker needs a fight after the sort of mess out in Riyadh when Martin Bakole came in at late notice. We wanted to see the Dubois fight, and I just feel that he's waiting for that Usyk opportunity. He's getting better and better under Andy Lee. He's reinventing himself, Joe Parker. He needs this. Fabio Wardley, what an opportunity.
Sure.
Yes, he got out of jail against Justice Hooney, losing round after round. He's got that right hand. He's got the power. He's got absolutely nothing to lose.
Joe Parker hits harder than Justice Hooney, though, doesn't he?
He does, and he's a better fighter. He's a more experienced guy, Joe Parker, and he obviously goes in favourite. But Fabio is undefeated. He's an incredible character.
Finds a way to win.
He does, and he's got extraordinary power
this is the best version of Joe Parker now,
which you can take. Look, he stopped Fraser Clark early. He stopped Justice Hooney late. He's going to be threatening all the way through. But Joe Parker is, I think, a terrific fighter.
Yeah, it's all about levels for me. And I just think that, obviously, Wardley in his last fight was sadly exposed in the boxing element.
And if Justice Hooney could hit harder, it would have been gone.
We have to give both these guys respect, though, because they're both interim champions. You go to put it on the line without a title on the line. I love that. That's what the game's all about. And that's what I love about Wardley. You go, he knows he's underdog. He knows he's underdog. But you go, I'm stepping up to the challenge. You've got to respect the guy for that.
No. 100%. You know, he's got the balls of a brass monkey, isn't he? He's so ballsy, and he'll fight anybody, anywhere, anytime, and that's to be admired. And this is his chance.
And it's a great fight.
Yeah,
it's a fans fight. It's a fans fight.
It's a great fight at the O2. Opportunity knocks for Fabio Wardley, and Joe Parker needs this before the big one.
It's probably more risk and less reward for Joe Parker out of this fight. Sure. Where are you on the argument that we've had this discussion between him and Duke and Spencer about Usyk slightly shafting Parker? We've seen him do his lovely little dance the other day, and ultimately, whilst telling the WBO, I know I've been in the camp which says if anyone's got the currency to say I'm not fit, then he's got it. But is there an element of Parker's got he's lost out the Dubois fight. He's had to fight Bacoli, and it wasn't much of a credible fight, was it, for him? It was, and now he's being put into a situation where he's got to fight Fabio Wardley when he really should be fighting for a world title. So there's not a part of you that thinks, come on, Usyk, you write an article in the Mail about how much of an opportunity Anthony Joshua gave you. Why aren't you giving Parker his opportunity?
Simon, I feel rules and mandatories as well are put in place for a reason.
Well,
that's it. You can't just go, because you're an excellent champion, we'll break those rules. We'll let them go.
I feel for Joe Parker, but for me, Alexander Usyk's in another stratosphere. I mean, what he did against Daniel Dubois at Wembley, he took the Wembley crowd as well. He's been unbelievable for the sport. So I think he does what he wants to do, really, at the moment. Joe Parker needs a fight. Fabio Wardley's the perfect opponent. Let's see what happens October the 25th, and let's hope Usyk and Parker fight early in 26. The one thing I really want Alexander Usyk to do before he retires, a bit like Katie Taylor, I want Katie to fight at Croke Park. Massive event in Ireland. She deserves the homecoming. And let's hope that there is enough time and peace in the Ukraine for Alexander Usyk to go and perform in front of his people before he hangs up.
Absolutely.
And I don't mind if it's against Parker or anybody else, but Joe deserves the opportunity to fight for the world title.
Frank Warren joined me in the studio the other day. Let's have a little listen to what he had to say about Daniel Dubois.
Fight that we did actually try to make the fight between him and Joe Parker. And unfortunately, he's injured. He has an injury, so he won't fight. I doubt if he'll fight again this year, but he'll certainly fight again at the end of January, February next year.
There was a suggestion that he was injured going into the fight, wasn't there?
Well, I've heard that, but, I heard it after the fight.
Yeah.
So I've got, with the greatest respect to everybody, it means nothing. If you're injured, don't fight.
Don't fight.
Don't want excuses afterwards. It's a waste of time. It means nothing.
What do you make to the split with Don Charles, Frank? Where'd you stand on that?
I don't. Excuse me. They had 3 really good wins together, exceptional wins, and I don't particularly like fighters changing trainers, jumping from here to there. I need my fighters to be settled, knowing what's going on and working together. But I'm not taking the punches.
Right, Duke. So we're not going to see Daniel Dubois this year. How do you feel, or what do you think his rebuild should look like? Does he take the winner of Parker versus Wardley?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think Daniel Dubois will make a massive impact on the heavyweight scene, given the opportunity, and that's the most likeliest fight for him. You might need one before that, but obviously once he's got himself together again with the new coach who's his new coach?
Tony
Don't
Sims.
know yet. Has it been announced to Tony Sims? Has it been confirmed? Is it?
Is that confirmed?
Do you think Daniel Dubois at this stage is better than Parker or?
Oh no, the proof of being the pudding when they fight.
Yeah.
They? We don't know.
Or Wardley. Would you rank Daniel?
We'd love to have seen Parker Dubois in February, wouldn't
But we don't know the damage that's been
And who did you
done
pick for that,
after
Spence? Because I think the argument that we had, I'm answering that question now because we've got new information and we always process new information, but when we were talking about Parker versus Dubois in January, we were all down the route of Daniel Dubois, weren't we?
Absolutely.
Wrecking Machine.
We thought he was going to be the next dominant figure.
Frank was also talking about Moses Itauma headlining in Manchester in December. Got wind of any notion of who the opponent might be, Spencer?
I think it will be someone likely to be someone because they're not going to go top tier with him because he's not there yet. They're going to go like
if you don't,
let's go Kubrat Pulev.
It's not going to be Avatar, is it? It's going to be someone.
Kubrat Pulev, Jermaine Franklin. It's going to be someone of that stature. That's where it's going to be.
Franklin, Miller,
Ajagba,
Pulev, Franklin, Miller, something like that. Moses will fight in December, and he is just so.
Is this
exciting.
the last one now? Is this the last dance before he goes big time?
I think he's young, Simon. There is absolutely no rush. He needs rounds. I was talking to Ben Davison the other day. They've got to find somebody, a couple of opponents, to give him rounds before they really go for it. Because once they're there, there's no turning back.
So if he fights Ajagba in December and dismantles him like he's dismantled everywhere else, are you saying there's another fight that's needed, another level it needs to go to?
But potentially, we started the whole show talking about the tragedy of Ricky Hatton. What Frank Warren did with Ricky is he managed him and developed it in the right way so that he got his opportunity against Kostas
at the right time.
At the right time. Everyone wants to see Moses in with the big guys, with Usyk, the Parkers now. Just take your time. Learn the business. He's done it in sparring. He needs ring time. And I think a couple more opponents, like a Franklin, in, like a Miller, like a Hrgovic, would be perfect.
And if he disposes of one of those guys in his next fight, then you're looking at like an Andy Ruiz Jr., someone like that. You go, that will give him rounds.
Good shout.
And that is for sure. And I think that's where you have to go with him.
Well, they saw Wilder and Ruiz, didn't we?
Frank, I remember speaking to Frank out in Saudi, actually, and we were talking about Moses and his direction, his journey with him and what he was going to do with him. He said, not that he doesn't think that he could beat Anthony Joshua and them, and once he does, he's there. And it's all about, Frank is great. He's the best out there at developing fighters. Ricky Hatton boxed for the British title in his 25th fight against John Fraxton. They let him, because he turned pro at 18, they let him build up, He got the experience before going in there and boxing for a title. And you've got to do that with Moses. Not saying he can't win a world title now, but then you've got to stay there. And you've got to do that, Duke, at the right time, haven't you?
Yeah, before he fought Dillian, I said to Frank, Moses told me he wants Usyk. He says, yeah, it's great that he wants him. Yeah. Let me do my job.
And that's right, that's right. You mentioned him, Anthony Joshua. What's all this about, then, calling out Tyson Fury on Instagram?
Well, look, we've talked about this in recent weeks now, haven't we, with Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, where they're at, what fights they've got left, what route they take, who do they take. They need to fight each other because that's where they're at in their careers. They're both getting on now. You don't want to fight these young lions that are coming through, the Moses Itomas and all that. You don't want to go near that. You want to now look at, let's define this modern era.
Isn't the real reason, Spence, the real reason that if you put Anthony Joshua with half a live one, he could get knocked out?
Absolutely.
And ultimately there'll be no Tyson
Fury. We're talking about
Fury.
Tyson Fury as well, and that's what I'm saying. It's the biggest fight
Less so Fury, though. Fury hasn't been blasted out by someone.
But we're still at this stage. You go, the biggest fight commercially in boxing right now is Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. Let's make it happen before something happens and we don't get the fight.
All right, let's hear Lennox Lewis talking about it.
There's obviously going to be chats at this stage of Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua and where they're at in their careers. What do you think both of those two gentlemen should do next?
They should fight each other. I think the British public is waiting for that fight. I mean...
will they regret it when they get to 60 if they don't do it?
Like, for me, my regret would have been not fighting Mike Tyson.
Yeah, exactly.
He was incarcerated for a little bit, and we didn't know what he was going to do, if he was going to come out, if he was going to fight. He came out, he fought. Now, people know the difference between me and him. Now there's no, guess in history who
You got to
won.
bookend the era, didn't you, basically?
Right.
You got to close off the era like you did with Klitschko as well.
Right.
You closed the era, there was no doubt about anything.
I think for the British fighters, they need to close the era too.
Yeah.
In that sense. But if they don't want to, it's up to them. They're the kings for their what they want to do.
World moves on. One thing we can always rely on, and things change. Is there any danger that the British public are going to get bored of waiting for this fight between Anthony and Tyson?
Of course there is, because we've been talking about this fight for years now, and people do get bored of it, and they do want to move on. We've got a new generation of heavyweights coming through, so I think they need to make it now, or it's never going to happen.
The public are already bored, waiting for Joshua and Fury, which has been spoken about for years. I don't know why they haven't fought up until now, but they should have done it.
Fury,
by now.
Joshua, Fury has to happen, and it has to happen in the first part of 2026. There is now a time...
Do you think it will happen?
Yes, I do, and I think it will happen. Like Lennox was talking there, and the one that got away from him was Riddick Bowe. Riddick Bowe in the amateurs, at the Olympics, and we never saw that fight happen.
No warm-up fights.
We never saw Calzaghe-Froch. We never saw Hatton against Junior Witter. Fights that go, that pass us by. We have to see Fury and Joshua.
So no warm-up fights.
Spencer's right. It wraps up the generation. It wraps it up. They don't want to go near Itauma or anyone like that. No. They've got to fight each other. They need it. The British public need it. 2 fights, please, 2026.
That should be the fight next for both of them.
For both of them.
Okay. We'll wait and see.
Warm-up fight.
Time will tell. We've got the Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn press launch this week. No doubt you guys will be banging the drum for this. What are we expecting?
Well, listen, if we get anything like we got last time, we're in for a treat, aren't we? Because,
Absolutely.
I think it was an unbelievable fight. Whatever way you want to look at it, what both guys done in that ring, what they left in the ring, was phenomenal. So, I've always been a fan
of... At least they could have done for all the noise they made.
I've always been wanting I've been a fan of wanting to see it again, and I think that, look, we get it again.
Round 13, Spencer.
Absolutely.
The 12 rounds were absolutely ferocious, phenomenal, whatever you say about the build-up, about the rights, the wrongs, it was a great fight.
The tragedy of it is that there's so little enthusiasm besides the boxing fraternity. I know there were 71,000 people in America watching the fight, but from the British boxing audience, they were sort of ambivalent towards the fight we watched on the weekend. There was a bit ambivalence towards Better Biv and Bivol. And then you've got these two guys that have never won anything, and because there's notoriety, it's huge.
No, but
that's something wrong with the ecosystem,
well,
isn't there?
It's not. It's because of
their characters, their personalities. It's a story. There's history. There's legacy.
So what do we expect difference in this promotion?
It's an event, isn't it? It's an event, Simon. You're not going to get a bigger event.
Yeah,
right. You're not going to get a bigger event than Eubank and Ben.
Grow up, Simon.
Because of the legacies.
Just because you don't like it.
Are you going to go to this one, by the way?
No, right?
Okay, come on.
No, come on,
Are we going to see anything different? I mean, they've told every bleeding story they can tell now. Yeah. Are we expecting to see Eubank Senior coming out with something vaguely interesting?
Who knows? There's going to be twists and
turns. 2 words of the week he's learned.
Yeah, no,
I think look, they're both big characters, aren't they? And there will be twists and turns, that's for sure. We don't know. Expect the unexpected is probably the best way to put it. And,
let's enjoy it.
Who do you expect to be in ascendancy in the press conferences? Because I think it's fair to say that Eubank Jr.
is brilliant.
Bossed the press conferences.
He's brilliant.
Took all the promoters' pants down and smacked their backsides.
He was great.
And pretty much landed most of the blows, literally and metaphorically, on Conor Benn. You expect the same dynamics in the
He was great in the build-up, and he was great in the last 3-4 rounds of the fight to win it.
I'm expecting the same as well. I think that Eubank is a master at that. I think he controls press conferences. He knows what he's got to do when he gets in the ring. Size is always going to be on his side. And you go, I'm expecting a similar thing if I...
It'd be fun with him and Eddie, won't it?
That'd be brilliant. It'd be brilliant. I mean, he's the best salesman ever.
Is the best salesman on the planet.
Be interesting to see what narrative they find, because they've done it now, and they've done that. Eddie's been smacked and told to shut up, not going to sit in the same press conference. People have been called scumbags, and promoters have been done this and whatever else. It's going to be interesting to see how they are inventive and they are innovative. As far as the fight's concerned, I mean, I'm trying to read what the producers put down here, which is ultimately that Chris Eubank Jr. will be off trying to fight Canelo, really, as a live one. How do we see the outcome? Do we see it going the same way? Do we see it being somewhat different? I mean, who's the benefit? Who gained most from that first fight? Conor Benn's reputation has gone up, but I never thought Conor wasn't going to be game.
The inactivity that Conor had sort of in the build-up to that fight would not have done him any favours. The moving up in weight would not have done him any favours. I think what I'm going to say is I think he's going to be better in this fight, Conor Benn. But I also believe that Eubank will be better in this fight as well.
It's a few months down the road. Eubank's getting a little older. The weight was so tight. First time round, I'd like to have seen it made at a slightly higher weight for Eubank Jr. That worries me a tad for Eubank, maybe down the stretch this time.
Well, let him rehydrate and take $1 million claws off.
I think Conor Benn will be more fired up, and I think he goes into it with more confidence. So I think he's seen as having a better chance.
Where do we leave either one of them?
What do you think? What changes?
Nah, Conor Benn can't change.
What changes?
Nothing.
Has Conor Benn got to make to win this?
He can't change. He can't fight any other way. He's too small.
What do you expect from Eubank?
Exactly the same as what he's just done.
And that will be enough?
And that'll be more than enough.
There were times when Conor Benn had a real chance. I thought 4, 5, 6 rounds. I thought he's really in this, but Eubank pulled it off down the championship rounds.
So are you saying that in your mind's eye, Duke, forget about it, close your eyes, pause for a second, no way Conor Benn wins this fight?
I don't know how he's not going to knock Eubank out, is he? He didn't have him hurt have him hurt in their first fight to a point where the referee was going to stop the fight or even took a look at him or anything like that. Don't really think the outcome's going to be any different.
Eubank's had a harder career, a longer career, and this time, I think, will benefit Conor Benn.
No, I think Eubank will come better prepared this time than he was last time, because I think that...
Is he just a better fighter, Eubank?
He may have just underestimated Conor's ability in punch power at that level.
Is he a better fighter, Eubank?
He's a better fighter than Conor Benn,
Yes.
And he wins again?
Yes.
Yeah.
So where does the winner and losers go quickly? I mean, do we see Conor... I mean, we saw Barrios fight Manny Pacquiao, and we think to ourselves, there's an opportunity for Conor Benn there.
We see Conor Benn now with an opportunity for the IBF welterweight title with Lewis Crocker.
I mean, a lot of call for that in Belfast on Saturday night.
By the way, if you're ever going to want a world title opportunity, that's a great one for him.
There's a lot of call for that Saturday in Belfast after the Crawford-Donovan fight.
Well, absolutely. I mean, me specifically reverted to type by picking Paddy Donovan. So we've got another British world champion in Lewis Crocker.
Do you think Crocker won the fight?
I think it was nip and tuck. But I certainly didn't. I didn't expect Crocker to be in this fight in the way that he was. I thought Paddy Donovan would have his number.
If you take the knockdown in the third and the knockdown in the fifth. By the way, he was really badly hurt. Donovan in the fifth. And thank his lucky stars that the bell rang at the time it did, because he would have probably got stopped. But if you take those 2 knockdowns away, where do you give him any rounds?
He readjusted Paddy Donovan, and I thought he did enough.
I think Donovan done enough. I think Crocker was quite fortunate to get that decision.
His tactics were fantastic from Crocker, but with Billy Nelson, those first 6 rounds, I think that spooked Team Donovan. But I thought Paddy, when he had the knockdowns, he came back. I thought he boxed really well last half of the fight. It was close, as Simon said, but for me, Donovan should have got it. But listen, hats off to Lewis Crocker. Yeah, great champion, lovely guy.
Absolutely.
And let him have the victory this time. Paddy will be back.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, that's it for episode 138. Thanks, boys. And we'll see you guys next time we're out.